I have a little PowerPoint presentation and I don't want it to be too formal. I just want to go through so you understand how a course is structured and what your commitments are and what's involved in the process. So as I mentioned, I've been in the industry for a long time and I started my journey in London right back in the late 80s when I was, a Kiwi with a backpack on, and that's when there were only 4 studios in London. So I practiced as a client for about 3 or 4 years, and in those days there were no formal training programs. You worked with your master and worked as an apprentice. So that's what I did for 5 years. I did an apprenticeship and also studied massage to learn how to use my hands and Alexander technique to learn about posture. I did lots and lots of things to put a few more strings to my bow and to start learning about the body, because I didn't have a training course that had these beautiful manuals and portals. So that's how we learnt in the old days. So when I came back to New Zealand in 95, there was no Pilates here. So that was my pioneering days of starting the first Pilates studio in New Zealand and introducing Pilates to New Zealand, but I knew I had a lot more to learn. So I've also trained with a lot of different companies. I've traveled to Australia to work with the APMA over there, and also I trained with Stop Pilates. They came to New Zealand, but it was all great and it was giving me more tools, but I still knew I had a lot to learn. So I'd been tracking Polestar Pilates and out of the US, and I saw that they were going to be offering their first course in Adelaide in Australia. So this is 1997, 98. So I jumped on a plane and went to Australia and sat in on the foundation course, which is the principles, and that's when I knew, okay, this is where I need to be. The information was well over my head with my capacity at that time, and it was a process to process the information, and from there on it's just been constantly learning. So I definitely haven't been bored. I'm still studying. I'm now doing Brent Anderson's pathokinesiology course. Even this late stage in my career, I'm still learning, still growing, and that's ideally what we want, is that constant learning, right? So Polestar was developed. Can you see my slide deck?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a little bit about Polestar and its name. So Brent Anderson's the founder of Polestar Pilates. So he and one of the US equipment manufacturers looked at developing the name. So Polestar's taken from the Northern Star. So quite often I might get calls from pole dancing companies and asking if I'm doing training in that. But anyway, no, it's named after the Northern Star. And we all know what Pilates is. We know that it's developed by Joseph Pilates, who died in 1967. And from there, his method has continued to evolve. And he trained, that we call them the elders, the first generation. There are 11 teachers, and they went on to continue with his work. And so I guess I would be third generation of the Pilates industry. Okay. So as you know, the Pilates industry is in a boom globally. It's really taken significant growth, and it's, when I learned it was a niche, nobody had really heard about it, but now pretty much, if you say that you're teaching Pilates, people know what you're doing and what you're talking about. It's become much more mainstream, which is what Joseph Pilates always wanted. When he died, he was very disillusioned that, the whole world wasn't doing his method. So if he was alive today, he would be very happy to see what's happening in the industry. So more and more studios are opening, and more studios are looking for teachers, right? And so really it's a profession, it's a career path, and really looking at investing in your profession is really important, because the whole point is you're not just learning to learn exercises, and it's not about just teaching exercises. It's really about meeting the person that's in front of you. And that's what it's about. As I go into the presentation, we provide assessment tools, but it's really being able to, if you're in a class and there's 10 people in your class, somebody walks in and, half the time you don't know what if there's any underlying injuries or pathologies. But I would like to get more screening done in these group classes, because now there's such a big influx of, the aging population wanting to do movement, and understanding, about bone density, understanding osteoporosis, the most common pathologies is really, really important. As you continue and develop your skills, you can go on and learn deeper about, more pathology, more, how to adapt a person. But at this stage of the courses, we want you to work safely, so that if somebody walked in with a hip replacement, or they said to you, I've got a stenosis, or, these common pathologies, that you would know how to work safely with those individuals and modify their program. And also we want to teach you observation skills, that the movement that you're teaching, is it within the realms of that person's capacity? So understanding when the load might be too great, that you might need to regress a movement pattern, understanding when they're at capacity and you could progress. So it's really giving you those observation skills to be able to adapt and modify with that person. So also we're looking at the trends now. We're always keeping an eye on what's happening. So this is globally, and more, the clients are becoming more savvy, and they want more than, as Justine mentioned, of just going into a class where it's all about the burn. And what that's going to do is just cause a big, taking a muscle to that level that it's burning isn't really functional. If anything, it's going to put the body, the nervous system, into a sympathetic mode. So it's really, people now want quality. And they, a lot of people want more of their individualized movement, and a lot of people now are definitely looking towards longevity. So they want this for the long term. This is how I work in my studio. Clients have been coming to me for over 30 years, and we retain a lot of clients because they know that they're going to be cared for, and we're continually evolving their program. But they're in there to live their lives better. It's not just about burning a muscle. It's about the whole person, the whole organism. So it's not just about the musculoskeletal system. It's understanding, about somebody's nervous system, regulating a nervous system, and really looking a whole lot more holistically at a person, rather than, and I love what Justine said, it's not just about going in to do some exercise. There's a whole lot of, understanding alignment, and it's alignment of the body. But, as Justine mentioned, if we start with some centering for our clients, it not just aligns their body, they also align within themselves. And that creates, a whole emotional of happiness. And, that's what we want. We want that connection to go and live a full, happy life, rather than, just going into a class and not having purpose. And what we want is purpose and intention in our teaching. The content of this is just to talk about that Polestar is a global company. It's an international company. So training with us puts you into a well-recognized certificate. So if you were to leave New Zealand and, let's say, go and work in Australia or work in England or travel, that certificate is taught in over 85 countries around the world. And interestingly, in Australia now, they have the health rebate for Pilates, and there's governing associations and the insurance companies are only going to insure a teacher that has gone through the protocol of working with, I think there's only like 4 Pilates education companies in Australia, and Polestar is one of them. So if somebody wanted to get the health rebate in Pilates, and let's say if they did a smaller training course, they're not going to be able to access that health rebate unless they upskill and train with a company like Polestar. So I think that that's important to understand just how highly rated the training program is. We're going to hear a little bit from some students that have done the training. We'll do a little course overview. I'm predominantly talking about Mat and Reformer tonight. The sort of flagship course is Comprehensive, which I'll sort of mention. I'll show you what it's about. But we've got Mat and Reformer courses. That's all that we're going to do for the remainder of this year, and that's coming up late August. I'll talk about the fees. And, Charlene, once your course is finished and you've graduated, then, as I mentioned, it's all about learning from there on. And there's lots of continuing education. It's the same as your physio certificate, Petra, that you need to do some CECs, continuing education, in order to keep your certificate current. I'll talk to you about mentoring because it's important that you are aligned with a Polestar mentor. Are you working with Abby, Charlene?
I've been doing my apprentice teaching with Mel.
Great, perfect.
Yeah.
Yep, awesome. Yep. We've got a learning platform I'm going to talk to. I'll talk to you about the local Pilates Aotearoa, which is our local New Zealand association, and we can do questions, and please feel free to ask questions as we go along. So I've mentioned a little bit about myself. I've, sort of the old matriarch here, but anyway, still very passionate, and I'm still sort of noticing that I'm getting clients coming in, and I started a new client on Tuesday that had been doing Pilates for, I think, 1 or 2 years privately. She has EDS, so Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and some other pathologies. And when I did her assessment, I hear that, she's been trained to rip her butt under and suck her pelvic floor up and draw abdominals in. And that's all this old cueing is still out there. So you won't hear a Polestar practitioner of talking in this way of a volitional contraction, because that's not what the science is about anymore. That old stuff is from over 20 years ago. So it's still out there, and I would do anything for people to upskill and actually understand, what's what cueing of the core muscles and the breath is about. It's not about a volitional abdominal contraction. It's actually much more about just anticipating load, adapting to load, and it's a pressure. The core muscles are it's all intra-abdominals, a pressure system, and this is what we teach you in our foundations. So about Polestar as a company, I'll talk about Brent Anderson in a moment. He's the founder, but it's celebrating its 35th anniversary next year. Brent Anderson is the only Pilates education founded and led by a PhD physio, and that's why we're always getting the latest research on doing the best for our clients, of understanding with our teaching skills and being able to always evolve with the current research. We really want to make movement accessible for all, so it's not just about going into these fitness classes, and it's about everybody that walks into your door being able to teach anybody, and for looking at the body in front of you, and that's really important to us, that it's available for everybody. we're part of an international community. So I've just come back from Europe, actually, where I was in Madrid with, colleagues over there that are always doing amazing, innovative things. We're meeting again in the US next year. So the international community and committees always getting together, raising the bar, and building the curriculum. And it's not just sort of locally based. It's really, an international team. So we've got instructors. It's the Polestar's translated into 85 countries, and there's more than 50,000 graduates worldwide. So this is a global team that I'm part of, being the licensee. I hang out with all these other countries, that are running the courses worldwide. This is Brent, an amazing man who will be on the learning portal. So he'll be, there's lectures by him of our movement principles. His book, The Principles of Movement, is our textbook, which all the students need to own. So I will continue. Oh, quickly, if you've got time, I'm just going to play. Often, here I am saying how amazing Polestar is, and we want to make sure that you hear from students that have been through the process. So I'm just going to play a little video. These are 3 MAT students from Auckland.
Because I wanted to choose Polestar. I chose Polestar because it was the name that repeatedly came up when talking to other Pilates teacher trainers. And after looking into it myself, just the quality and the standard and how thorough it is. And then as I'm going through myself, I'm finding that I'm understanding Pilates so much more and able to move in a better way for my body with everything that we're learning. Yeah. What about you, Ethan?
The reason that I chose Polestar is because my lecturer is actually a Polestar graduated. So she told us that actually Polestar, they have a scientific background to back up the exercise with the evidence-based research. So as a medical student, evidence-based research exercise is really important for us, especially when we want to do some rehabilitation exercise to our patients, as well as fitness exercise. So that's why I think Polestar is really suitable for a medical profession like us to do on those patients who suffer from any low back injury or any other sports injuries. How about you, Michelle?
I chose it similar to you guys in that I had teachers that were Polestar trained, and I really loved how they met me where I was at. And I think having gone through the training, the same is true, where I feel like we've really been equipped to be able to look at individuals and adapt the exercises to meet them and get them where they're at and in terms of their goals as well. So yeah, it's a really great course.
Okay. Oops. Oh, sorry. So if you're also wanting it's always good to do your due diligence and hear more from the students. We've always, when somebody's trained with us, we've always, got them to, talk about their experience. So that's all on our website if you want to listen to all the people with their different backgrounds. Okay. So the MAT and Reformer series. So the courses always start with our principles lecture, and that's all our foundations. So Joseph Pilates had his original guiding principles. Brent's evolved them a little bit more to be, current in the language that we would use today. And so there's 5 movement principles, which is breathing, control, mobility, alignment, and then it all leads into movement integration. So the lecture of the principles, I'll go into a little bit more. It's 8 hours. Ideally, attending this live, because you're really able to have, because it's interactive. And so if, we're in the breathing lecture, we're going to be obviously talking about the anatomy, the physiology, and then you're able to go into an experience where you explore different breathing types and assessing, and there's movement. And with the MAT series, there's 2 Charlene, did you do mat or reformer?
Reformer.
Okay, so there's mat 1 and mat 2. So they're the curriculum where you learn to do, there's all the exercises. So mat 1 is more with what we call pre-Pilates. So that's where we break down a lot of the traditional movement patterns and just put them into little part tasks to enable a client to access movement before they go into the full traditional exercises. And there's beginner exercises, and that leads into intermediate exercises. The mat 2 is high, intermediate, and advanced. In those modules, there's also labs, so we discuss teaching skills. So using imagery, Petra being a physio often likes to teach with more direct cueing, with anatomical cueing. So we'll teach you to use your language to be a little bit more indirect, using metaphors, using imagery, because that can connect more with your client or patient, that they have that experience, and that's enabling you to facilitate movement. We also have teaching skills and communication. What are we saying to our clients or patients? So using language that's constructive for their nervous system, and also, leading into pathways to give your clients their own solutions, to access their movement. It's, making sure that it's positive and constructive rather than, oh gosh, that's a very tight hamstring. Oh, I've never seen such tight shoulders. That language is, highlighted, that moves out, and we teach you of more constructive communication on teaching skills. Also, it's important that we have a tactile cueing lab of using our hands to facilitate movement. So it's not like, a massage therapist or a physio that they are mobilizing joints. This is more about guiding movement and using your hands for giving that external feedback to your clients. You'll see that we've got practicums, and when you're doing the course, you really need to have mentoring. And so we've factored into the course fees, the practicums, which are 4-hour sessions. So, for Petra and that you're in Gisborne, maybe fine just to zoom in on those, because a lot of it is reviewing the material of the module before. And so, ideally, my recommendation, if you can access cheaper flights, is to, come up as much as you can and be present in the course. And if there's times that you need to zoom in, that's fine. We have that as well. The reformer has the same. It's the principles. Everybody comes to the principles together. You've got 3 modules and three practicums. Okay. The comprehensive is a combination of everything. Have you all been in a comprehensive studio with the trapeze table, the ladder barrel, the chairs? So there's much more apparatus. Like the reformer is a proportion of the Pilates method as the mat work is. Joseph Pilates developed the reformer to help the people, because his work was on the mat, and if people weren't able to access movement on the mat, he developed the reformer to assist people being able to, access an inversion, or, to do short spine, and, you've got the springs and the pulleys to guide and assist you. So the comprehensive course is over it's got 6 modules, so it's about a year. And there's case studies, and it's much more in-depth training. And often, we recommend, if you don't have a lot of experience and you're just not sure, starting with the mat series is awesome, because that's a really wonderful place, low cost. You can do awesome classes. You can, do work with your patients. So starting with the mat series is a nice place to start if you're thinking of continuing your studies. The prerequisites for the courses is that you need to have done anatomy and physiology. So both Justine and Petra. Obviously, that's not something that you would have done with your nursing and physio background. You do need to have at least 25 hours of private or group Pilates classes experience before coming into the course. It's not that it's a, absolute black and white rule, but it's, the more movement experience you've got, the better, because if you come into the course and you know what bridging is, well, then, you don't have to learn a movement patterns, from scratch, that you're able to learning in the depth of understanding the movement, and then you can take in more information. For the comprehensive, it's broken up into rehab and studio. So the physios go under the rehab stream, and the fitness is the other stream, but it's a hybrid course that everybody's in there together. I'm not going to spend much time on this because, Charlene, have you done your anatomy?
Yes.
Great. I'll keep going. Knowledge. So knowledge is really important, and that's something that we want to share with you, and it's an adult learning course. So it's up to the individual of how much you put into this, how much work you put into this, of what you're going to do with this knowledge. But these are the tools we're going to provide. And the more knowledge, as Brent always says, you don't need a license for knowledge. This is, he wants his Polestar teachers to have good understanding. So, as I mentioned, so we've got the principles. It's going to be on a Friday, the 28th of August. It's from 1 till 5. We've separated it only because we rent the Wellesley Dance Studios in Auckland, and it was very difficult to get one full day. But if you are coming up to Auckland, Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, going to some movement classes that I would recommend, and then Saturday afternoon back into the principles. So any questions about the principles? Do you?
I just wanted to know, the principles are what are in the comprehensive course. So if I wanted to start doing the comprehensive course at the beginning of next year, I need to do this first?
Yeah, so let's say if you did MAT, let's say this is your scenario. You did MAT this year, you did the principles, and you did the MAT course, and next year you wanted to do comprehensive. You don't need to repeat principles. So in our principles workshop, everybody's there together, comprehensive, reformer, and MAT, but you only do it once, because some people start with a course and then they go on to do another course. You don't need to repeat this. Yeah? Did you do yours, Charlene, live or online? Did you do the virtual one?
Live at Abby's.
Oh, great. She did a really cool one. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. It flew. Yeah. Like every time we were at one of these in person, like either the principles or the practicums, the time just goes like that.
A lot of information, right?
Yeah, a lot of information, and it's just, you just don't even realize how fast the time's going because you're so focused on like all the movements, and because you're practicing the movement as well. It's it's really good.
Yeah, great. So yeah, I love the principles. I love teaching it because I learn so much when I do, and it just takes me deeper as well, every course that I teach, and that just takes me deeper into with my clients and able to, make changes quite quickly. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And, I have to say it's unique to Polestar. This is what sold me. When I went to Australia, no other company has the principles like this, that there's the guiding principles, yes, that Joseph Pilates developed, but Brent's really put the movement science in, and so it's pretty cool. This is his book. Can you see it? The Principles of Movement. So that's a requirement for all students, even if you're looking to, do your training next year, even starting with this book. And it's a lot of information. Pretty much it's, Brent's life work, 30 years, in this book. So it's can be full on, right, Charlene? I pick it up and I just read a section and I highlight things that are interesting, and I have to keep picking it up. And every time I pick it up, I'm like, wow, that this land, things land, the concepts land a little bit more. So the book, it has the 5 movement principles. It covers movement assessment and facilitation with a practical, accessible approach, blah, blah, blah. It explains, motor control, motor learning, biomechanics, and understanding the latest on fascia research and pain science. I mean, how many people do you see, who have pain? And just, these tools that can help you understand the mechanism of pain and not to be afraid of it. My favorite client is a chronic pain client because I'll be able to move them around quite quickly. And they would have been suffering for 2 or 3 years, and just with the education that I've had and to understand when it's a protection element versus, tissue damage, and educating my clients and making them feel safe. And all it is about giving a positive movement experience so your client feels safe and is able to access movement and, gets rid of all the fear avoidance, because they've injured themselves in a specific way, is really cool. So there's lots of behavioral factors, in this framework as well. Again, I'm not going to go into this. This is, when I left this as part of our old principles, but it's just sort of explaining about where the latest research is, and as far as, what core control is. It's, the classical teachers will talk about the powerhouse, and you're going to hear a lot of people out there cueing, lifting your pelvic floor and, bracing your abdominals, and that's definitely not where we are or going. And so, yeah, it's much more about movement and spontaneous movement. I'm going to keep moving. The other thing that this is unique to Polestar is being able to assess your clients. So this is the Polestar assessment tool. So there's 12 tests that, measure ribcage expansion, can measure, squat, ankle mobility, spine mobility, looking at extension, looking at, mobility and flexion, understanding the principle of mobility, what that means, of, even distribution of movement through the whole spine and moving in all planes of movement. It's quite incredible that, there's so many classes that don't move through, extension, lateral flexion, rotation, all the, planes of movement. Often you just have classes just moving in the sagittal plane, which is, just a lot of flexion. And especially with somebody with osteoporosis or, for spine health, bone health, we need extension. So this assessment tool is really cool. Each client that comes to my studio is taken through an interview, and I do an assessment, and people, have sourced me out because pretty much in Auckland, I'm the only studio that's offering this, and this is what attracts them to me. And that's how I develop my programs. So the programs are meaningful, and that's what we're going to teach you, how to design a program. There's, how to sequence, how to design, and, so that it's a bit more purposeful, your class, rather than it being just about choreography or, burning the bum. It's much more, that you're wanting to make changes. And Petra, if you're working, in the hospitals and working with different populations, you want to be able to do assessment and, also with your physio skills, and to be able to design a program or a treatment plan that's appropriate for that person. The MAT series, what's this about? I've mentioned that. So I'm just going to, can you read that, or have I got the...
Yep.
So, I'm going to put you up there. So there's a logbook, which I'm going to talk about now. With the MAT work, there's actually 3 modules, but for graduation, you only need to do principles, MAT 1 and MAT 2. and then you can do your exam. There is a mats with props, which is a third option, which is really cool, using the chi board or the oov or the balance set, or the big fitness balls. Okay, why don't you... Okay, each course has a logbook, so the logbook is part of your course hours. So you've got all your online lectures which you need to view before you come on the course. So that's where Brent's talking about some of the movement principles before you come on to principles. Then we do the big lecture workshop. You come onto the course, you do the material. During your studies, you need to do 25 hours of observation. So Petra, in Gisborne, there's 2 Polestar. There's a mentor called Michelle Franks. Have you heard of her? Okay, so I can introduce you to Michelle Franks, and also Vanessa Vetti's a physio. Do you know Vanessa? So she was in our first cohort, actually. So have you worked with Vanessa?
Oh, I've just heard really good things about her.
Yeah, she's really cool. So she was in our first ever cohort back, and she was just up in Auckland. Actually, we had a workshop with Kimberly. So you could, reach out to Ness and say, look, I'm doing the MAT course, or what, I've just made that up. Is it okay if I come and observe? And I'm sure she'll be generous and say, yes, you can. So you go in for an hour and you sit. We give you guidelines of how to observe. And so you got to do 25 hours of those from the time you start the course to when you graduate. She might prick up her ears big time. Let's say if you are doing training, that, she would always be looking for well-qualified teachers. If you wanted to talk to her and just say, I'm considering doing a course, see, what's happening in her studio, pretty sure she would be very open to that. Also, Michelle, she would always take on Polestar teachers when you all speak the same language. So you do have quite a nice community down there. So observation hours shouldn't be charged for, that should be free. And then your apprentice teaching. So when you start, you can, for instance, I have students that say, can I come and assistant teach with you? So they might come into my studio class or my reformer class, and I give them exercises to teach my clients, and then I can give them some feedback afterwards. You can start teaching, but you just log your hours, and we just ask that we evaluate yourself and just say, well, this worked really well, or this didn't work so well. So it's kind of like you're doing your own self-evaluation. So the apprentice teaching, a proportion do supervised. I think that's really your learning place. It's where our students really learn, coming in and working alongside us with our clients, and do some unsupervised. And also you can practice with your peers. So, with your cohort that you go through, they all have study groups. Some students, I give them space in the evenings when my studio's not busy, and they come in and they practice teaching one another. And so, are you doing some apprentice teaching, Charlene?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. It's really good. It is definitely a big part of the learning because I've come from the old school of thought of no pain, no gain, and bracing your core all the time. And it's only been since learning with Polestar that I've begun to undo those things, and now I've actually started to notice a difference in my body. But then applying that to people that are just coming in for like 1 or 2 sessions a week, they're at a different mindset, and so they're not aiming for like the perfection that that I want. So
yes. we can't expect our clients to have the perfection
exactly.
either.
So it's
that's
about
cool.
having a positive movement experience, but
right.
it's just a work in progress.
It always is, and that's very cool. You've got some homework. Charlene probably knows more about the homework for Mat and Reformer. I teach comprehensive. We have a whole faculty team throughout New Zealand, and so you have to do some assessments, some PATs, and you have to, assess a friend or family, and then you upload it onto the portal, and then the mentors just give you some guidance and some feedback, and just give you some tips of making that assessment tool as best as you can. The exercise checkoffs, I'm going to talk about that too. So in your logbook, each exercise is listed, and so in the course we do some checkoff, and also in the practicum we do some checkoff. In Christchurch, they do study groups. I think Abby has study groups that you will go to, and you can do your checkoff with a mentor. But that is all in your logbook. So if you're budgeting on the course, we've got you're paying for the course. We've included some practicums in the pricing, but you do need to put some funds aside because you will need additional mentoring with your cohort. So Emily, who works with me, she's always got study groups, coming in. They share her time, and so that's in addition to the course fees to get their logbook signed off, and that's where they get a lot of tuition and guidance and feedback. So the Reformer series, it's the same. It has the logbook, very similar to the mat. I don't need to repeat that. Okay. A logbook accompanies the Reformer course. You got to go. Kids are back from.
He's just going to quickly go have a fun game of soccer before.
Okay. I'm almost there, Justin. Almost
okay.
there. And I've recorded this too. So this is the comprehensive series. It's our flagship course. It does everything. It's got all the equipment. It's a big notch up, and really great for physios, Petra. This is the sort of where a physio should be, and using all of that, our apparatus to assist movement. It's amazing for a rehab environment. It's also amazing for a fitness environment. I work in both. I work in rehabilitation. I'm not a physio, but just with doing this course and continuously learning, I stay in my scope of practice, but any questions about the comprehensive course?
Can I just ask, do you think, obviously I'm coming in from just being an active Reformer learner, a student, not doing the course, would you recommend doing the Reformer unit before going into a comprehensive?
We have a real diverse group in our comprehensive course. So, just with your nursing background and that you've been doing Pilates for a couple of years, is that right?
Yeah,
already?
Yeah, quite a few years, yeah.
Yeah, so it depends on where you want to take it, Justine. With the comprehensive course, you're equipped to do everything because the mat work's in there. The majority of the Reformers in there. Some of the Reformer 3 and the Advanced isn't in the comprehensive course, but all the critical reasoning is. The Reformer course is more about group teaching versus, a lot of the teachers do work individual as well, but the focus is more on group class teaching and structuring a group class. It depends on what you want to do with it.
Also in the comprehensive?
We do. We get the students, like we start with more on the mat, but we do get you to design some Reformer classes. It's much more focusing on the individual, but a lot of our comprehensive teachers are working at Unity or, working all over as well, teaching group classes. It depends on what you see yourself doing.
Look, I've honestly had a really good deep dive into it, and I think personally feel like I want to go into the comprehensive. I
Well,
think
then I
it'll just
wouldn't. Then I
nourish
wouldn't
my
do.
soul.
I would save my funds then, rather than investing in the reformer class. Of course, I would invest in the comprehensive and use some of the funds that you were going to put into the reformer, not that much, but put that into some, into your mentoring. That's how I
Yeah,
would approach
that's
it.
a good
Yeah.
idea. And so in regards to the principles, do I just wait till the comprehensive comes up, or do I book into that principles in
You
August?
can do either or, if you know, it could be nice to start with the principles, get your book, you've got your anatomy. You could start working with those principles, because the longer that you have to process it, the deeper it's going to be. It's a personal choice. My advice might be that you might go a little deeper with it, or is it fresher when you do the comprehensive, and it's, the language is fresher that you're going into the comprehensive. So I think probably you'd be okay to do it next year. It's up to
Okay,
you. If you really wanted to
that's
get
great.
started, yeah. So
Honestly, I've got so much. We've got 2 grandchildren coming in December, and we're moving, so all that kind of stuff. It might be really good just to get into everything in the new year. Do I have
I
to?
think so.
Do you guys open up? When do you open up registration for it?
I haven't even, oh my God, I've got so much happening. I've got Shelley Power and Christy Idavoy. They're our superstars in the US. They're coming to New Zealand and Australia, and I haven't put their schedule together, which is what I've got to do.
Okay.
I've got exams coming out of my ears. I've got my desk is always really full. So I'm hoping October I can get that schedule out. So October I
That's great.
typically have it out. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So around the end of the year is when you register. Is pretty much what it is.
Yeah, give yourself lots of time. Uh, Really, because there's some, go through these lectures online, start reading Brent's book. Buy Brent's book now,
Yeah, I've
and start.
actually got it.
Oh, okay. I know that it's heavy duty going, but that's just gonna,
Yeah, I'll just start
land.
digesting it.
Yeah. And if you are looking to register, my advice is really register with lots of time. I see the stressed out ones when they leave it to the last minute, and then they've got to prep and they're running around and it becomes stressful. The last thing I want is a stressed student. So
Understandable. Do you guys send out, because I'm listed for your newsletter, do you send it out when the registration's open?
yeah, and you're following us on Instagram?
Yep, I am.
Yeah, so that we kind of start doing lots of on Instagram, and it'll come out in the email blast. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. I've actually got to go because he looks
Yeah,
like he's
you
coming
go.
back with an ankle injury.
Yeah, you go to your sunbed, and you know where to find me if you've got any questions.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you so much. All the best,
You're welcome.
ladies.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So there's the logbook for comprehensive. It's actually over 460 hours now with the practicums included. I've mentioned rehab versus studio, and the course fees are on the website. The early bird discount is finishing up this weekend, but if you need more time, just let me know. There's payment plans. Oh, this is your slide, Charlene.
Yay.
Okay, so what do you need to know?
Well, so before I forget, I just want to go back to Shelley Power and Christy Idavoy coming to Auckland in end of October, start of November.
Mm-hmm.
So I will happen to be at my hometown at that same time. So I was like, oh, maybe I could get to see them, but I haven't seen the prices for that one yet. So is that just we have to wait
Yeah.
and see? And
Yeah,
that's still
I'm getting there. Yeah.
Ah.
Is your hometown Auckland?
Kaitaia. It's about
Kaitai's way
4.5
up.
hours north of Auckland. Yeah. But I
Yes,
mean,
I
I would
highly
still love,
recommend you do. Yeah, I highly recommend that if you can, if it comes into budget,
yes.
you do. They're amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
yeah,
love Christy Idavoy's style of teaching.
me too. I love
Yeah.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
She's out there. So what do
very
you love
connected.
about it?
I love how it's very connected to therapy.
What
You
do you
know,
mean therapy?
she's incorporating being present into
Yes.
the movement. Yeah, it's
Great. Yeah.
not just doing the
Great.
movement, it's like
Great.
connecting
Yeah.
with yourself. Yeah, and that's what I love.
Yes.
So when she started talking, I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah. No, she's
That's the style that I want to aim for. Um,
great.
so because I haven't actually finished all of my logbook hours, I don't know exactly when the next exam would be.
I'm just making sure that, hang on, just Charlene, I'm
Sure.
just going to make sure that Petra, because I can go over. Petra, what I'm going to do, Petra, okay. I really recommend subscribing to the Pilates Hour. Are you subscribed, Charlene?
Yes.
So that's Brent Anderson. It's a free webinar every Friday, and the recording's available where he might do a case study. Tomorrow's going through the ICF model, which is what we use in comprehensive. But that will give you a sense of who we are and what we're about. And it's quite phenomenal. I don't know, he's been doing that for about 3 or 4 years. There's hundreds of episodes that he's done, which is quite incredible. So I'd really recommend that you tune into that. There's blogs that you can find on our website, and those mentors I don't need to talk about. There's mentors. There's Michelle Franks in the picture there, Petra. So that you've got teams in Christchurch. So we're all here to help students get through their journey. I think don't you think, Charlene, the learning really happens in the mentoring? Because I think in the courses you're like, taking your notes and, you're getting the information. You've got a learning portal which has all the exercises and lectures, and, all of your assignments get uploaded onto this learning portal, so it's in one place. So when you're on the course and you go, okay, I've just learned 18 exercises and movement, and then there were all those, lectures. The nice thing is that you can go back into your portal and go, what was that boomerang again? And, you can review it. So it's kind of state of the art, and it's pretty cool that, that you have access to that. You can have it just on your phone. There's a app that takes you into, all your courses are listed there, and so you can onto your phone. This is an example of all the exercises being in your portal. That's Shelley Power in the back there. I'm going to keep going. And Pilates Aotearoa I've been on this council, oh God, is it 3 years? Really making sure that we've got the standards, that we're, in alliance with the rest of the world and all the standards globally. So I've been sitting on this council for 3 years and making sure that other education providers are keeping their courses, up to standard. So this is our little Auckland team. Chanel, Emily down on the Reformer, she's been working with me for 15 years. We're very close. And Jo, with the glasses, she's been with me, I don't know, 25, 30 years as well. So they are an incredibly well-trained team, and their education is quite full on. To become part of faculty is intense training. The standards are very high in order to be part of faculty. So that's my little PowerPoint. But I just thought, Petra, what I can do is help Charlene, with her questions, unless you've got some questions. Or
I
you're very
can't make the principal's date in person. Would there be an option for like recorded lectures or?
Yeah, are you away that I think have you been talking with Jison?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So that's fine. We will be recording it. And so you can get access to the recording and, just sort of put, it's 8 hours, so, chip away at it, because I think you're fine to do mat. You're interested in mat, right?
I might start with mat and then do the comprehensive one next year.
Great plan. And I really recommend, that you've got two very, very experienced teachers in Gisborne. If you would like me to introduce you, I'd be very happy. I'm very close to both Ness and Michelle.
It would be amazing.
Would you like me to? Okay.
Please.
I'm just going to make a note. Oops. Petra. I've got all my notes. Oh! Right. Petra. To introduce you. I think they would be delighted to have another Polestar graduate down in Gisborne. They'd love it. They'd be fighting over you. So any other questions?
No, thank you.
You're welcome, Petra. And I will just stay on. Unless you want to listen in, you're very welcome. I just want to you're very welcome to stay on. So Charlene, how can I help? Where are we up to?
Okay. Thank you. So, as I said, I'm about just over halfway through my logbook hours in Reformer 1 and 2. And I feel like I need to start preparing myself for the next step, for hopefully when I pass the exam. So I was just wondering if you had recommendations on that.
Oh, so you've done Reformer 1 and 2, so we need to do Reformer 3 in Christchurch, don't we?
I think that's on the cards, but I haven't put my hand up for that yet because I feel that I need to really embody 1 and 2 and
I
understand
think,
that.
Darlene, because typically if you look at the Auckland cohort, the reason I did it that way in Christchurch is because we'd never offered a Reformer course before, and I was expecting a lot of physios to, sign up for the course, and they probably wouldn't have a lot of use of Reformer 3. You would be completely fine to do Reformer 3. I don't think that you need to feel that you're going to embody anything more because the Auckland students have already done it. And that's a reminder that I need to factor that in for Christchurch. You do have to do Reformer 3 to be a graduate. So